every person who is charged with a criminal offense is entitled to defend himself in person or by a legal practitioner of his own choice.
Remember that an individual is entitled to remain silent.
Every citizen in Nigeria is entitled to maintain a private life.
You are approaching a military checkpoint or a police checkpoint without knowing that it's against or it offends them and subject you to a frog jump. That is wrong.
Hi viewers, you're welcome to the maiden episode of the program Justify Nigeria on the Advent Cable Network Nigeria ACNN television. Justify Nigeria is a television program designed to educate and enlighten the general public on the principles of law and its effective relevance and applicability in our modern-day society. It provides avenue to dissect the basic current issues trending in the nation in order to broaden our horizon on those issues only on point of law. Today on the program, we are going to be discussing the fundamental human rights, bearing in mind that some people's rights have been violated and trampled upon. In a nutshell, the natural law theorists viewed human rights in the abstract. According to them, human rights are the species of rights which can be said to be inherent in every human being. They are regarded as inalienable and immortal rights which cannot be taken away from any person without affront to justice. With me in the studio to discuss this is Barrister Frank Moluku, Esquire. He's a counsel with the firm of Chris Uche, SAN and Co. You're welcome to the program, Barrister Frank.
Thank you so much. It's my pleasure to be here for this wonderful events and discussions.
You're welcome.
Thank you, sir.
Please, what is fundamental human rights? Can you tell us? In
Yes.
essence, when we talk about fundamental human rights, what is it all about?
Yes, fundamental human rights is a right that bestows on individuals by virtue of being human beings to start with. And these rights are so sacrosanct and they are attached to individuals from birth. So these rights are well protected in the Constitution, as can be seen under the Chapter 4 of the Constitution. Now, these rights are protected in the case of Ransom Kuti versus Attorney General of the Federation in 1985 authority. The court said that these rights are so sacrosanct that they are codified in the ground norm. That is to say, codified in our Constitution. That is the Constitution, 1999 Constitution of Federal Republic of Nigeria as amended. Hence, that it will be immutable.
So, when you talk about immutable, counsel, what does it mean?
Yes, so it cannot be it cannot be touched or tampered with. It is protected because there are the rights that comes from God. In another way, you are entitled to it by birth, regardless of whatsoever, except the exceptions.
So counsel, you're saying as soon as a baby is born, automatically he or she has that right?
Yes.
Automatically?
Automatically, yes.
He has that right?
Yes.
Does it now mean that there is any dichotomy between human rights and fundamental human rights? Because when you look at the case in Uzuku, I think there is, I don't know whether there is a dichotomy between that.
Yes, the Uzuku case they created two issues. That is to say, the human rights. It says that human right is a right that bestows on an individual by virtue of entitlement. That is to say, natural rights or rights given by God.
That is
the human rights.
Human rights now.
Yes, but the fundamental rights are those rights that are within the realm of the constitution of a particular jurisdiction. That is to say, how a country protects
their citizens.
The citizens. That is the rights of the citizens. Okay. So these are the emergence of the Fundamental Rights Enforcement Rules of 2009 has been able to unite these two into a single affair. That is why the Chapter 4 of the Constitution brought in all the provisions together, including the African Charter on People's Rights, and codified it on its own. So to that extent, I would say there is a dichotomy, but the effect, the implication of the enforcement of fundamental, the enforcement of the rules of 2009 has overtaken that issue.
So in a nutshell, what you're saying, before now, there was a dichotomy between that. But in our present rules now, they have come to make it one principle.
It is one now and absolute.
Okay, it's the one absolute.
Yes.
So once again, the right is something that once you are born, automatically you have that right.
Yes.
But you are talking about the fundamental rights that it depends on the jurisdiction. Maybe what is applicable in America will not be applicable in Nigeria. But however, from what you are saying now, everything has been brought into one principle.
Into one principle.
Like
I told you about the African Charter, which the National Assembly put into our constitution. Now, that came from another jurisdiction, but for the fact that it has been taken in as part of our laws, it has come in now to make a unified right. So if you look outside you look at the Magna Carta rule that came from the United Kingdom, all of them have now come in to form a single right. So they all have their historical inputs. But what we are looking at now is the general provision.
Exactly.
Yes.
So this fundamental, where can we find it in the Constitution? This fundamental rights. Is there any chapter that you can find in Constitution?
Yes, on the Chapter 4 of the Constitution.
Chapter 4 of the Constitution.
Of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, 1999, as amended.
Okay.
If you go there from sections 33 to end.
Okay, the whole Chapter 4 talks about these rights.
Yes, these are protected. Okay. That's why it's so special.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay. Thank you very much. That will lead us to ask you a particular question, because when you look at that Chapter 4, specifically section 33, it talks about right to life. Yes. Can you tell us what right to life is all about? Because I know it's one of the fundamental human rights we just talked about. Yes. What is right to life?
Right to life is the first, dare I say, the most important right in the section, saying that an individual is entitled to life, to his life. Now, it is couched in a way that it shall be entitled, which is a mandatory word. But then, I will still hint that it is not an absolute right, as a matter of fact.
Explain that, please.
Yes, if you read down 33 subsection 1, it says that an individual is entitled to a right to life, right? Then it gives an exception as well, except in a circumstance where a court of competent jurisdiction, by virtue of execution of a judgment, would deny that right to life. That is to say, when somebody is found guilty of a capital offense like treason, murder, or armed robbery, then you cannot lay claim to that right to life again.
Okay, so yes. It is not absolute.
It is not absolute.
But under the one circumstance, it is only on affront of justice. That's what you're saying now.
Yes.
That is to say, there must be some exception to this rule.
Yes.
Please, let's know the exceptions.
Okay. Yes, I just mentioned one now.
Okay.
Then, if you look at the section 33, subsection 2, A, B, C
of the
Nigerian Constitution, 1999, as amended, as I referred to initially, it even gives more exceptions. For instance, it's saying section A says that right to defend can justify a case of murder. That is to say, if you are defending yourself from any aggression or you are defending a property, then if death occurs, you as the person, the accused person, can actually say that you were defending yourself and cannot be held for murder of another person. That is to say, the victim has lost that right to life. Yes. Secondly, in the course of effecting an arrest.
Okay.
Yes. In the course of that, if reasonable force was not. Yes. In fact, as a matter of fact, the earlier one I mentioned, we have to take care of the reasonable force. That is objectivity.
Explain that reasonable force, because we seem to be confused. What do you mean by reasonable force?
Yes, reasonable.
Can a force be reasonable?
Yes, it's reasonable. It's within a reasonable man's is objectivity. Okay. That is to say, you don't kill an ant with a sledgehammer.
Okay.
Yes. Breaking it down, assuming someone is coming to you with a stick and you bring out a gun, a Kalashnikov, and shoot the person, in the normal sense of a reasonable man, would you say that this is a reasonable force? Or would you say that probably you should have gotten another stick, or would that stick have been able to kill you?
Okay, so you're talking about reasonability now.
Reasonability. It is on the balance of objectivity. It is measured on objectivity. So to that extent, it is for the court to determine in each particular circumstance
what reasonable force
was used.
Okay.
So to that extent, if the force could be said to be unreasonable, then it holds that there is murder.
Okay,
Yes.
that's very
Yes.
wonderful. So now, in terms of the reasonability you are talking about, because just is very important.
Yes.
So objectivity comes to play.
Yes.
And you are trying to tell us that objectivity is where 2 or 3 people will see that particular something as it ought to be.
Yes.
For example, if somebody crossing a main road is being supposed that you have to look left and right objectively.
Yes.
Anybody who does that know that is objective. So reasonability goes to play in that.
Yes.
That's wonderful.
Yes,
That's
within
wonderful.
a reasonable range which you expect from another person to observe what you expect and what I expect as well.
Okay.
It is not contentious. Yes.
It's obvious.
It's obvious.
To a reasonable man.
Yes.
Then, Council, we have seen in many situations where a police will make an arrest, or maybe military or what have you, and in the course of torture, the person dies. Yes. What happened in that circumstance? Can we say that that person's right of life has been violated?
Yes. Part of the provisions there says right to dignity of life. That is where torture. That is what provides for torture. Now, our laws provide that one should not be tortured. But unfortunately, in practice anyway, people are tortured to extract whatever they believe is the truth or not. Now, in the circumstance, if a life is lost, the relatives or the concerned citizens or social critics or whosoever can institute an action against the authority, be it the police or EFCC or whosoever did that act. Yes, you institute an act for enforcement of the rights of the victim.
Okay.
Yes.
So even if the victim is not dead, but there's some bodily harm, and can the person also enforce his rights?
Yes, you can. Under torture, that is torture. You must not be dead, but what is wrong is wrong. You have been tortured, and torture is provided under the provision. So once you have been tortured and it falls under the realm of this section, you can institute an action for enforcement of your fundamental human right, seeking for damages or maybe apology or a restrictive injunction, as the case may be.
Well,
Yes.
Counsel, in a situation where you see the excuse of the police or the person effecting the arrest, that he was using the reasonable force we talked about,
Yes.
to maybe on his own mind, the person making the arrest, he has seen that he or she is trying to withhold some information. Will you not say that that's reasonable force, or that is justified? Maybe in the course of doing my duty as a policeman or effecting an arrest, I discovered he is holding down one information, and maybe through torture and all that, can't I be justified that torture is right? Because I see him holding some information, vital information that will help my investigation. Maybe in the course of that, the person dies. What happens? Wouldn't the law protect me that it was in the course of my duty?
It depends. We'll have to look at this holistically. Okay. What do you mean by information? Is it like, is it something handy or in his thoughts, in his mind? Why are you trying to get the information? How sure are you that the information is vital? Remember that if it is a thought or mind, remember that an individual is entitled to remain silent.
It's like this. You continue with this question as soon as we come for break, please.
Okay, it's all right.
Have viewers, we'll be back. Stay tuned. Hi, you are welcome to The Speaker, the program that treats tropical issues and the polity. Over the years, a lot of controversies have been spread across on the belief of a Christian to be a successful lawyer without compromise. Furthermore, opinions are divided on whether or not the principles and concepts of law derive its basis from the Bible. It is on this issue that the idea of the law and the Bible came into existence. In order to make some clarification in this regard and to help showcase the relationship between the law and the Bible. Principles of law in the legal system are so homogeneous and heterogeneous. But we shall, however, take one of the principles to be able to buttress and establish what we shall be examining. Hence, the law and the Bible. On the speaker for today, the principle of law we shall be considering is called fair hearing, which could be seen in section 36, subsection 1 and subsection 4 of 1999 Constitution as amended. Before and during the trial of any person accused of a crime, there are provisions in 1999 Constitution as amended of the Federal Republic of Nigeria which ensures that accused persons shall have a fair trial. This is because fairness of trial is very fundamental to the administration of justice. It does not only give integrity to the legal system, but it also ensures the confidence of the society in the administration of the judicial system. Suffice it to say here that the concept of fair hearing is at the very foundation of the legal system and is usually encapsulated into two legal maxims, namely, audi utram partem, which means hear the other party, and nemo judes in causa sua, which means no one should be a judge in his own case. But for the purpose of this discourse, we shall concentrate more on the former, that is audi utram partem. In the resolution of the dispute or the determination of guilt, the court is duty-bound to listen and consider the evidence of both sides in the case. This is because the law requires that the accused person be given the opportunity to state his case. However, if the accused person fails, refuses, or neglects to state his case, he cannot claim that his right to fair hearing have been violated. This was well manifested in an old celebrated case of R against the University of Cambridge, 1723 S128. It is also worthy of note to stress that this principle of audi utram partem is relevant in several matters. Let us look at its biblical concepts. But the Lord God called to the man, "Where are you?" He answered, "I heard you in the garden, and I was afraid because I was naked, so I hid." And he said, "Who told you that you were naked? Have you eaten from the tree that I commanded you not to eat from?" The man said, "The woman you put here with me, she gave me some fruits from the tree, and I ate it." Then the Lord God said to the woman, "What is this you have done?" The woman said, "The serpent deceived me, and I ate." Genesis chapter 3, verses 9 through 13. A critical look of this portion of the Bible showcases the trial that took place in the court of the Garden of Eden under the inherent jurisdiction of God Almighty. When Adam and Eve sinned, God did not go ahead to punish them. Rather, he called upon them to give their defenses. It was only when he must have heard them out that he convicted and sentenced them accordingly. That singular act of God is the doctrine of audi utram personified. In the ways of Pauputa Jesse, as he then was, and I quote, "God is the chief advocate of fair hearing. That is why he has given you 2 ears. Therefore, it is not only fundamental but also paramount to hear both sides." Unquote. It therefore suggests that no matter how bad and dirty the crime of the accused person may be, the judge is duty-bound to hear him out. Similarly, an accused person cannot be called a criminal until it is proven beyond all reasonable doubt. This is because Section 36, subsection 5 of the 1999 Constitution as amended provides that, and I quote, "Every person who is charged with a criminal offense shall be presumed to be innocent until he is proven guilty by a court of competent jurisdiction." Unquote. This provision is popularly known as the Presumption of Innocence. Dear viewers, the speaker is therefore encouraging us to hear our offenders, no matter how bad and hurting the offense may be to us. Because if we do not, we'll be violating both the law of divinity and the law of humanity. For both the law and the Bible condemns and frowns at unfair hearing. The above principle of law we just examined is one of the ways we can justify that there is a relationship between the law and the Bible. My name is Anozie Chinomso, and guess what? I just want to speak. Hi viewers, you're welcome. Thank you. Glad to know that you are still there. We are still discussing the fundamental human rights, and I'm still here with Barrister Frank Moloku. Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you, my brother.
Before we went for break, we are trying to look at the justification of maybe somebody making an arrest.
Yes.
I'm a police officer, for example, or I'm an officer, and I want to effect arrest because you made mention of the right to life that is holistically except affront to justice. Now, I'm trying to, get information. For example, the person stole or is an armed robber, and there are maybe gang of armed robbers. And I discovered that the kingpin, he's withholding the information. And I, as the police officer, wants to use reasonable force. We talked about reasonability, the objectivity. And in the course of doing that, my duty, he dies. As a policeman, would the law protect me? Or will you say that the person, the victim, have deprived him or violated him of his right to life? That's what we want to get.
Like I said, I would like to, it will be helpful if we know what manner of information you are trying to extract.
For example, I just painted an example now.
Yes.
There are a group of armed robbers.
Yes.
And it happens that we discovered in the course of the investigation that primarily that one of them is withholding the main person. It might be a very influential person in the society, a politician or what have you. And we discovered that that person is withholding. We got some information, but we want him to come out so that it can be admissible in court. And in the process of trying to extract that information he's withholding, he dies. What happens in that circumstance? Will the law not protect me as a police officer?
What was you said in the process of extracting the information, what means were you trying to extract the information?
Okay.
Yes.
Okay, that's another point. If, for example, maybe I try to flog him, use a painful object to try to, because I have done many things. I have come as a police officer trying to use love and friendship to, he's saying no. And we have information somewhere that this person is withholding and there was an example that it happened sometime. So what happens, using maybe force by beating or hitting the person, and the cause of beating or hitting, or even using a sharp object, he dies. What happens?
Yeah, that is a wrong manner of going about it. What you just said summarizes what we talked about. Torture, it is wrong.
Okay,
and
torture should not come in.
Torture it's provided under the right for dignity of man. Torture comes in. Nobody shall be tortured in whatsoever
It's
manner.
also one of the rights.
Yes, it's one of the rights under that chapter 4 of the Constitution. So it's sacrosanct. Howsoever, whether you believe or not, or whatever it is, you cannot torture an individual in the course of extracting whatsoever evidence. It is wrong.
Okay, torture in any manner is wrong.
In any manner is wrong.
Thank God for justifying Nigeria. So viewers, you see any kind of torture. The issue that the police officer was it to extract information does not arise. That's the sense of this. Thank you very much. So whenever torture is being forced, that is wrong.
It's absolutely.
You can maintain action against the person to enforce your rights.
Yes, because that is why in the court of law you see that some evidence, when you bring up issues, the counsel on the other side, the defendant counsel, we raise the issue that these maybe the statements were extracted under duress, and that is enough to ground. That is
not to admit that evidence.
Yes, of course.
It becomes totally
inadmissible.
Yes.
And that is why you see the court, they will go what we call trial.
Within a trial,
wherein the court will now want to look at the genuineness of that claim that such an evidence, which is the statement of a defendant, was gotten under duress.
So once it could be established that that evidence is gotten under duress or torture, no matter how palatable that evidence is, inadmissible.
It's inadmissible. Yes. Once that is established, it's inadmissible.
You
cannot put something on nothing and expect it to stand.
It will definitely collapse.
Exactly.
So any type of torture, indeed, is not...
It's forbidden under this very important angelic provision.
Yes, I love that word, angelic. Yes. Well, Counsel, just like the example I painted the other time, if as a police officer I discover that this person is withholding information, I've used every kind of, please tell us who is involved. Say, no person, I don't have a kingpin or a godfather and all that. How do we? I know you're not a police, you're just a lawyer, because we are trying to tell our viewers now they have known their right, any kind of torture, you can maintain an action.
Yes.
Then how do we now, as a police officer now, maybe he's watching this program, how can he now enforce that, trying to bring out information without that torture? When the person maybe, let's use the word hardened criminal, and there's this instinct we have, there's a provision in the law that gives the person reasonably to believe that this person is withholding information. How does the person do it?
Well, that is where intelligence comes in. As a force, as a crime-busting unit under whichever department it is, you are expected to be. That's why you see our officers, they say they undergo some trainings abroad and all that. Intelligence doesn't mean that you have to come to somebody and say, okay, tell me this. You have to do your investigations, you have to follow up, you have to mount surveillance, and you do all sorts before you know. In fact, in the normal climb, before you even arrest someone, you must have gotten enough evidence.
Okay, before the arrest, even?
Yes, before the arrest. That is why in our place, unfortunately, you arrest someone and you keep the person in detention, and you come and tell, when the person asks for bail, which is entitled to, you come and tell the court that you are still investigating. The court will frown at that. What are you investigating? You should have done your investigations, done whatever you want before you arrest. So that by the time you are arresting the person, you are confronting the person with the charges against him. And you are charging the person to the court of competent jurisdiction immediately.
So you are saying that due diligence must be paramount.
Exactly.
So the issue of arresting person trying to deduce information is not professionally right.
Wrong. It's archaic, it's medieval, it is absolutely unrecognizable in our laws as it is. But like I said, unfortunately, we are where we are, and may God help us.
Thank you very much. The issue of right to life, we've seen that it is very fundamental for what we've just discussed so far.
Yes.
But looking at the incessant killing and massacre and murder that is happening, especially our brothers and sisters in northern part of the country, could it be said that those people's rights have been violated?
Yes, this is a topic that actually saddens us as ministers in the temple of justice, and also as individuals who have relatives scattered all over the country. It's very unfortunate what is happening in the northern part of the country. And just some days ago, we heard about the southern Kaduna killings. And this thing is not a one-off crime. Yes. So to say, you enter a house, you kill someone accidentally, or you rob and kill, and it goes on and all that. But this continues. It's a pattern now. And nothing is happening. I mean, the federal government or the government owes individuals, the citizens, that
Which
obligation.
Government now? Is it the federal government or the state government?
The federal government.
Generally.
The federal government generally.
Then specifically the state government.
Yes. Owes individuals that particular right to protect them. You have, it is there. It's a protection of lives and properties. It's very sacrosanct. But unfortunately, this thing continues happening, and we see every day people are being maimed, killed, and all sorts done. So to that extent, yes, coming to your question, yes, they are entitled. Now, because before the emergence of these fundamental rights enforcement rules, and okay, not even before then, there was this issue of local standi who can institute an action in court, who has the right to institute an action in court. Sorry for that. Now, before, it used to be said that it is the person itself that is the victim of a crime, the victim of whatsoever crime or aggression. But then, if you look at it, how can a dead person institute an action against an agency for killing the person? No. Now, it has gone to the extent that the courts have widened it up now to include that individuals, relatives, neighbors, associations, and human rights activists and social critics can now come in and institute actions. It could be a class action against a particular agency, be it the Nigerian Police Force. They can sue the IG, Inspector General of Police, the federal government, Ministry of Defense, howsoever they want it, against some acts being perpetrated by individuals. Although the individuals may not be agents of the government, but then the government owes those people the right to protect them, which they have failed to do. So to that extent, relatives, human rights activists, social critics, they can institute an action for enforcement of the rights of victims in this situation. Yes,
Thank you
and
very
get
much.
damages and other consequential reliefs that will follow.
Thank you
Yes.
very much, Barrister. Thank you so much. I hope next time when we call you, you're glad that you also on our invitation.
Sure,
You have really opened the ways and what you have to understand that many of all these things that have been violated, and you have also told us what to do when our rights have been violated. Once again, thank you for coming.
It's my pleasure.
Thank you
my
so
pleasure.
much.
I'm very
Wow,
glad to be here.
wow. Hi, viewers. There is no doubt that fundamental human rights are very integral in our healthy living. Those rights are indeed fundamental and indispensable. Ex-President of the United States of America, Thomas Jefferson, in the American Declaration of Independence, was very conscious of the valuability of fundamental rights when he said, "We hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal, and they are endowed by their Creator with certain unalienable rights, that among these are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness." This is also in pari materia with the dictum of Pakayodesho, J.S. as it then was, in Chief Mrs. Olufumilayo Ransom Kuti and others, against Attorney General of the Federation, 1985, 6 Supreme Court, 245, at page 276 to 277. It was also reported in 1985, 5 Nigeria Weekly Law Reports, Part 10, at 211, particularly at 229, 230. Fundamental human rights is a primary condition of rights which stands above the ordinary laws of the land and which, in fact, is antecedent to the political and civilized existence. It is therefore advised that we all should endeavor to know our rights and enforce them accordingly. Until we come your way next time in the episode of the Justify Nigeria, it is bye-bye from all of us here.